Okay, gonna try to do a quick wrap up on this model kit. Again, this is the Death Star 2 Bandai model 013. And yeah, sorry, it's like I'm stuck in the shadows here. My backlight is out, but let me move this up. And pretty small, you can see how big my thumb is, reference material for you to reference painting or detailing this thing. I had to just resort to other videos that have made this, or watching the movie again. And like I think a lot of things in Star Wars, especially the Empire, like the TIE fighters in particular, there's the color, that gray that they use, right? Well, they all have gray of some sort, but it's like, do you go with the studio model, which has a certain paint job, or do you do what you see on screen, which, obviously the color grading and whatever, the lighting of the actual models and the way they film it will give it its final look on screen, which could be quite different from the actual model. And then there's whatever you think in your head, perhaps, is what is the ideal, or what you think of as passable as the TIE fighter, or in this instance the Death Star. And um, yeah, so that's what I got. And I ended up, I was trying to do this the quick and easy way, which was way different than my last one, which was the Mandalorian Razor Crest. Let me see if I can move this light over a little bit more. And so, yeah, so let's have a look at this while we talk about it. I can focus in. And I did a lot of detailing in here. Mix of grays from most primarily Vallejo. And I just did like a dark coat, and then I basically painted on the kind of a blue grayish color. I think I used Greystone blue. It was supposed to be like a dark ghost gray, or at least the closest I could get to that. But I couldn't find that online, or rather I couldn't find it at the store. I didn't want to wait to like weeks for it to just ship a little bottle of this stuff. So I found the closest equivalent to that. I think it works. And then just did some highlights with some other shades of gray, some mix of rust colors. I think I might have mentioned that in the previous video. And I do like the way it turned out on the bottom underside here. If I can get that to focus. All that. And you really won't see it because it's primarily going to be in this configuration right here, right? And yeah, and we just took a look around, and I ended up having to do several passes of this because I thought I was just going to be able to get away with just the base gray plastic and then try to dry brush the darker gray over it, but it wasn't really looking right at the time. Maybe there wasn't enough differentiation. I think the gray should have been lighter to have that contrast. As you can kind of see, to really look closely at the Death Star, and even in the movies, there is like quite bright areas and dark areas, and I think I needed more of that contrast, and that's what I did. And there are, speaking of sides that you mostly see, there is a seam that you'll see running across. This is one of the parts that you glue on this way, and so that kind of runs through here, unfortunately. But I was going to see about patching that up or gluing it really tight before I painted and assembled the whole thing, or rather, yeah. And I just didn't end up doing that. I just said forget it, just put it together. And well, I did do the inside first, as I think I showed in the previous video, and then I started sticking it together, and then I started detailing the outside last. And that was tricky. I really didn't want to have to individually paint each one of these sections, plates, whatever you want to call them, in the darker gray, or try to fit in light gray in between. But I actually ended up doing that, physically trying to do the best I could to paint all that detail in there by hand, and I think it turned out pretty well. It looks like what I think this art basically should look like. And I was going to avoid doing like these different colors in here, but because they didn't really have any like lines or anything, but panel lining to separate stuff like that as they did on the outside. But as you can see, there is some like light areas, dark, you know, that go in like that too. And if you look really closely at that, they kind of did that here. And I did see some people try to do that on some of their that had this kit, and I figured, well, you know what, I should probably try to do something like that, and I ended up doing that. What else? I think notice that I tried to make the trench line. I guess you if you want to call it that. I don't think this is the actual Death Star trench run line, although some people tend to think it is. I think it's actually on the old Death Star used to be somewhere else along the surface. I don't think this was it at the, I guess, the equator, but it kind of looks like it. But I don't think that actually is where they do the trench run. Right? It's actually somewhere else on the along the surface of the Death Star, well, at least the Death Star one. But anyways, I made this light because it's what basically looks like. I can point out, you can see that faint, you know, it's brighter in the middle. And then I just went in with a black panel line from Tamiya and just filled in the actual dark line in the middle, as you can kind of see across here. And I just added that extra deal to just make it look deeper, and I don't know, just like what I think this kind of looks like. This comes off as a bit more blue, but to be honest, in my eyes, when I see the Death Star on screen, it doesn't have that much of a blue to me. It seems more just gray. So I just kind of went with that look here. I was trying to wrap things up by basically giving the overall coat a coat of matte clear, just to tone down everything, because I think the paints, after painted it, it did have a slight sheen to it, and for certain I feel like what we see on the screen, you know, in the battle and even Death Star 1, it's a very matte sphere. You know, there's no real like really bright sharp highlights that that really show up, and over the surface it's generally pretty matte colored. And that's why I did it twice, but I don't think the matte clear that I'm using is really toning it down. It still seems a bit on the shiny side. So I think I was using some simple like Rust-Oleum, which I thought no big deal, just a matte clear should just do it, but it's not really matting it down as much as I want. So I'm going to figure out a way to maybe tone it down further. Just maybe I was avoiding to bust out my airbrush. I hate cleaning the thing, to be honest, after I'm done. But I might have to do that, because I think I might have some clear matte that might actually, dull coat that might actually tone this down better than that does. But it is what it is right now. But I think for the most part, I think you know, it looks about right to me, and it's going to be basically, well, probably turn it a little bit more this way. This is the front, right? And yeah, just have it just off to the side like in this picture, and you're basically going to see it from this side. So that's why I'm not ever really worried about the seams line showing up. I'm pretty much the main person that's going to ever see this, so I think this will be fine just like that. And that's about it. So definitely took more work and time than I originally thought or was planning to, but I really wanted to get the details down and make it look closer to being right. And that did require it to, you know, do more of the, especially the contrast between the light and grays over the surface of the Death Star. This could have been all passable in another way, just not even as much detail as I put into it. Could have been much darker too, and you know, didn't have to have a lot showing up on that side. But I just wanted to, you know, make every aspect of it as interesting as possible. If I ever got someone to pick this up, and even myself once in a while, to get a good look at it and see if it, you know, how I feel about it. But yeah, that's about basically it. So I think this was cheap. I think I got Amazon for about 11, maybe $12 at most. So for a simple, relatively simple model that's just snapped together with no glue, except one part panel of right here on this side where it seemed it tended to want to just ever so slightly lift off, no matter how much I pushed it. So I did dab just a little bit of crazy glue on the inside and push it to keep that locked down more. And I think overall that's the only part I ever used to it. It's just a tiny bit of glue, but the rest of it, no need. So let's see here. What if I move this light back out, and if I turn on one of the lights, and even that one, and we like aim this up higher so that you can see how this might look like from a distance with lighting coming in from one side, which it normally should, right? That looks not too bad. Of course, what the camera picks up is a bit different than what I'm actually seeing in actual real life here. But anyways, hopefully it translates well enough for you guys to see. And that's about it. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see what I end up doing next.